What's up? My name is Shad, and welcome to Advance's Amplify virtual interview series. Advance acknowledges that we in Toronto, where this organization was founded, are on the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Now, Advance was formed to develop an infrastructure for the betterment, upliftment, and retention of Black people in the Canadian music business. And the Amplify series highlights exceptional Black professionals in the Canadian music industry and shares their stories and their many experiences. Our goal is for you to leave with a greater appreciation for our guests because each individual has made a significant difference. And right now, I'd like to introduce you to Jonathon Shamar.
Hey, man. Shad, what's going on, bro?
I'm doing good. Thanks for joining us here. I want to start actually at the beginning, maybe even a little bit before the beginning, if you don't mind. Tell me if you always wanted to get involved in music. I know you have a fashion degree. Like,
right.
How about like right before your kind of beginnings in the music industry? What were you planning on doing? What were your aspirations?
To be honest, man, like I never really focused on getting into this business. To be honest, I focused on obviously fashion. That was my initial focus coming out of high school. With that being said, like the fashion thing, I kind of took very seriously for about a year and a half, 2 years. Then I kind of had this very close friend of mine. I was doing music and I was just entertained by just the fact of, the freedom that he had to be able to like create and just do cool shit. So I wanted to help him on the business side of the things. So I focused on helping out with his business and I jumped ship on fashion. I just jumped ship and I just said, yo, let's take the risk. Let's just see where it goes. And now we're here,
I'd love to give people really like detailed look at your work and what you've done. So what are some of those first business things you were doing? How did you start to learn the business basically?
Well, to be honest, like I was never, like I didn't have a mentor or someone that taught me, how to enter the business or that gave me advice on what things I should do and not to do. I just picked up that Donald Passman book, man, like off Amazon, read that book front to back a couple times, took some notes, a lot of YouTube, man, a lot of Reddit, a lot of just like internet surfing, just trying to figure out like what a manager or what a person that occupied this space should be doing, and what are the best practices essentially. And I just kind of just developed a know-how of what should be done and what shouldn't be done. And kind of over time, you learn and you live and you learn essentially.
So at this point, how do you define that term artist manager? Because it can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Like how do you understand your job as a manager?
Man, it's everything. You wear every hat, you in my opinion, like you're a de facto label until you have that support from a label or from a distributor or from a bigger corporation to help you out with the things that every artist needs, a team. So up until that point, really, you're married to the person, man. You're best of friends. You're essentially taking care of their livelihood. So my focus and my view of artist management is such a broad spectrum. So it really just depends on, what your specific role is for that client. Sometimes now for me, like it might change based on the particular client, but overall it's just you're wearing all these hats and you're trying to figure things out and make things happen for them.
So you started out chipping in on the business side, but obviously you have this creative background.
Mm-hmm. That was my focus.
That was your focus. Yeah. So break down how those two things fit together in an artist management role, the creative contributions and the business contributions.
Right. I guess for me, creative is where I come from. I'm a creative person. Like business for me was something I just like to do. Mm-hmm. With that being said, every artist needs to have an amazing creative mind or a creative team behind them to help them put out the right content, the right, I guess overall building their brand, which is, essentially like a big part of their business. And that was my biggest thing. It was like, I focused on the creative side of things first. I wasn't so much about like label deal negotiations. I wasn't so much focused on like figuring out the nooks and crannies of like the Donald S. Passman type of knowledge you would learn from that book. It was more so just like, let's make cool stuff, let's shoot cool videos, make cool music, and put it out to the world. And it was a creatively driven focus for me before it turned into like fully trying to be an operational manager, essentially, and helping the client fully, have an independent business, essentially.
Yeah, make dope stuff. That's the first.
That's the thing, man. Just if your stuff's dope, like that's the bottom line. If it's not dope, it's not gonna go anywhere. That's just how I see it as a creative. Like, what would I want to see as another creative person from another creative peer, like an artist? That's my focus first.
So make dope stuff. That's first. Secondly, that has to be distributed somehow. That has to be okay. So, what was your intuition? What was your instinct as far as, again, in the beginning, these first things that you're making with this artist? What was your strategy as far as releasing that stuff?
Man, there was no, like, I'm 19 years old at this point, so like I'm just thinking about like putting things out, and like there was no rollout plan, there was no real strategy. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you like I had a mapped out plan of like we're gonna tackle this specific territory. It was just organic. We put it out with hopes of it reaching the ears of the people it reached, without limitations, obviously. But I think the strategy behind it was just put it out, reach out to your peers, look for local support, and try to see if you can get some international support from other peers that made similar music, that covered even, like, for instance, like the complexes at the time, like the mini versions of Complex, like get write-ups on the singles, on the songs. And that was it. And there was no like massive plan. And then, to be honest, the songs kind of had their own organic, fire behind them. And with that being said, you're able to look into the back end and see where things are coming from to really get an actual proper plan prepared for the client.
I think that's a real jewel, because I just think that that's true. Not everything looks genius in retrospect. Right?
Yeah, man,
but I think it's really helpful for people to hear that sometimes, you're just out there trying stuff.
Yep.
And that's okay. And like you said, you end up learning on the back end.
Exactly. When you learn, man, it's like you just fail forward. Things happen, and you just like analyze it once it's happened, and you just look for the next play, essentially. One song made some noise, and we just made it work. Next song, and keep learning.
Yeah, I studied business in school, and right. I had a professor in fourth year. He was just dropping jewels like this all the time.
Right.
And it was a strategy class. And one thing he said was, sometimes you have the right strategy and it doesn't work. And sometimes you have the wrong strategy and it works. And that's just a reality of life. And so I feel like that's very helpful to hear. So why don't we talk about age for a second? Because as you said, you were 19 when this was all starting.
Right.
So what was that like for you? Was age on your mind? Like, I'd imagine there's some young people at least watching this, probably intimidated by the idea of getting involved in the industry. How were you feeling at 19 about starting in this business, and what would you have to say to someone else that's 19?
To be honest, man, I didn't have an idea of what like the industry was supposed to be like, so I wasn't scared going in. When it's like absence of light and being scared of the dark. It's a simple thing. It's like I just didn't know what to be scared of, and that's why I went in, and I just went in blindly without fear. And it's better for me that way, just because like you're able to learn faster without like trying to like navigate and dodge things, because naturally you avoid things you don't like to do, as a human being. The age thing, like as a young kid, I never really looked at age. I just wanted to do, I wanted to just like help people make things happen. Like that was my biggest thing. Like didn't have a plan. I was just like, you make sick music, let me help you. Like whatever. Like, can I help you do merch? Can I help you like email that guy that like might pay you $5,000? Like, I don't know. Like that was my plan. Like, was just to help a friend, like operate his business in any way he needed to help, and I think as that kind of grew, and as my my responsibilities got larger, I kind of became a better manager because I got, more things on my plate to help him, take care of, which is like, it was merch. Then it was like, okay, help me take care of all my emails. And now it's like, take care of my tour routing. It's like, oh, tour? Like what? How do we even book a tour? I'm 19. I'm trying to like email guys that like were on tour before, like, yo, can you book a show for me in like Paris? It's like, huh? Like they're messaging back like, no, like get an agent. I'm like, who gets agents for you? Like it's just so many questions that you have to answer. And like, I didn't have like, a person saying like, yo, go hit up Paradigm, go hit up WME, or like, here's the contact to it. So you just kind of just go with the flow and you fail forward again. Like that's like my biggest thing is just, you just keep trying again until it works.
I love what you said there too about wanting to help, that being your motivation, right? Like seeing dope stuff and wanting to contribute and be a part of it. And that it kind of puts blinders up to the fear, because you're focused on helping. Okay, you brought up booking agents and stuff, and that was actually my next question, was just who were some of the key people, or maybe who was the most key person that you added to the team? So it's you and an artist, like you said in the beginning. Right. That's what it is. It's just the two of you, right? Who was the next person that was part of the team? Booking agent for us, like for that particular client personally. We didn't really have a legal yet. We didn't even do a distribution deal yet. We had no deal. It was all done through DistroKid and TuneCore. So there was no need for one yet. We're just building up the value of the client before we went to start pitching anywhere. But the agent, man, like he was independent as well, and he created value for us like that. Honestly, sometimes like I think a few years ago, people were saying that like an agent is just as good as a manager. Like, and I was like looking into these like forums and whatnot, and it's like these guys can, because I think that the whole business was switching towards like tour focus, and like the artists that toured the most made the most money. So it was like if your agent was like as powerful as the manager, like you would like always be on top. So I was like, okay, like who can I find to support us? We found an agent that was European based, a company called BFOS Booking. His name's Guillaume Brevers, and this guy killed it for us, man. Like he worked so hard, and he got us literally every show we wanted to get. Obviously, sometimes it was just random spot shows and one-off dates, but man, just being able to meet fans and being physically there, was a game changer for my client and myself. Yeah. No, I think that's key insight, and I always tell young artists the exact same thing. Like a great booking agent, once you get into the real business of it in terms of like the money, right? Mm-hmm. Like the music business always changes in terms of where the revenues are, but like for an artist, a performer, that's, except for in pandemic times, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's
super, super important, man. It's like right now it's obviously touring's halted, but man, the live show sector, it's the best part to me about the business. Like it's like the energy you get from being at a show and a concert is it's like you can't explain it.
Yeah.
No. Especially when, like, you're behind the scenes and like it's your client killing it. It's like I can't describe the feeling.
I was about to ask how important that is for you as a manager in terms of getting that energy that you need to do your work, seeing that live connection with fans.
To be honest, like I'm an energy person, so being inspired and finding inspirations through just like doing good and having small wins and seeing my client and my friends win is just for me like something that pushes me forward to do more and to want to win more for that person or for my team. Whether it's like let's say like there's like a dead 3 months in the business. He's working on an album, and I'm just like working on a lot of like back end stuff, operational things. But it's just one-off show that we just play. Like I don't know, but whether it's local or international, I don't care. But it's like if you can see 500 fans and they're just like giving your client this like energy, I'm just like, yeah, like that's what we work for. That's what we literally like sit behind a computer all day and like reply to 1,000 emails and like set these shows up and then like just to have that moment. That's my biggest thing right now.
Love it. you wear a few hats now, is that right? Like artist management, but you also do like curating and
yeah. I mean,
so so talk a little bit about how your career has branched out and diversified.
Well, like, to be honest, like I said to you before, like music was just something that like it kind of chose me. Like I wanted to just help, and I helped the person that was a musician. You know, like if it was helping an athlete, then I would be an athlete manager, an agent, or something like that. You know, I ended up helping a musician. Yeah. So I said, okay, like I'm here, let's make it work. You know, and I think from there, I kind of focused on just helping that client focus and solely for like a couple of years, honestly, nonstop, and helping them develop their career and developing their brand and their business. And I kind of started thinking about like what was and what wasn't. You know, like, it's like, hey, like, damn, I didn't do that fashion thing. I didn't like really follow the things that I wanted to do, which is like, I'm still doing what I love to do, but like things that I initially planned for never happened. So I kind of pivoted and I started to like, you know, work my goals into the goals of like, I guess not the goals of the client, but like, I guess our goals kind of align, because the entertainment industry, you can kind of go a lot of different ways. Like you can go into the merch world, you can go help out with designing clothes and whatnot, which could be a merch collection or even like another collection that isn't, you know, adhere to the actual client. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I started working on partnerships with like brands like Billionaire Boys Club in Europe, partnering up with like major companies like Adidas and whatnot. And that for me, like started giving me activating that creative side of myself, you know, like, which is what I don't use all the time as much because I'm so operational now and helping the client just like turn the gears. Yeah. And I'm outsourcing a lot of like the creative work, which is like, you know, naturally what happens. But now that I'm able to like allocate some time to focusing on doing small things like that like help the client, but still like help myself grow, is what's my main focus right now, to be honest.
That's dope. So you can still feed that part of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there does that end up helping your artists in terms of relationships, or not really? It's just kind of like keeps you energized so that you can do the management stuff as well.
Oh it's both. It definitely keeps me energized as well, but it benefits the artist most times. Like it's fashion. You can incorporate fashion and clothing and design into your artist's career, especially when they're also a very creative person. And like I think I just see brands as just like white canvas. Is like you can go anywhere you want to go. It just depends on like if you feel like you fit that demographic or if you fit that lane, you know. But luckily I had a client that was very like, you know, open to all these different ideas, and like he just let me just go and like run.
Cool. What do you look for in an artist to work with?
Now, I mean, before, man, I was just like, let's just work. Like now I'm just like, I realize it's like a lot of, you know, it's a lot of work, obviously. And I'm protecting my energy a lot more because it's definitely a hard job. Yeah. So I've been more focused on finding those little right things, like the cues. Okay, like is the music dope? Do I love the music? You know, like my big thing now is like, if I don't love the music, I'm not gonna do it. Do I think that there's a space for it to exist in the industry? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it current? Is there like a pocket that I think he can like dominate? Yeah. Or I can help him dominate. Like, do I already have those assets to give to that person? So yeah, I guess it's sonics, it's music, that person has to have more drive than I have for their own business. Yeah. You know, they're getting the lion's share of the entirety of their earnings. So really it's like, if you aren't as hungry as I am, if not more, then why am I going harder for you than yourself? You know?
So you're very selective at this point in terms of
100%. It's like, you know, you only have 24 hours in the day, man. You take on a bunch of different clients as an individual. If you're not having a partner, then your day is living for somebody else, really, you know? Yeah. Unless like you're focusing on just the money part, you know, if you're getting really paid. But that's also a thing as well. If I think it's gonna make money.
Yeah. But I think the job of a manager, like you said, it's so much. It's so all encompassing. You do have to be all in, right, on this artist.
100%. And if you're not all in at all, like it's pretty clear. Like you can tell when someone is just half half-stepping or half-assing it, to be honest. It's like, people that are like managing a client, like you can tell someone's just like helping them do a few things and not like fully vested in that person's well-being and that person's success.
Big question now, but what's your sense of the music industry at this point? I mean, it is in the 15 years I've been involved in music, I've never seen it in such a state of like, it's chaos, basically.
Yeah, things are everywhere.
Things are everywhere. I think there's opportunities in that there's so many different lanes now. There's so many different ways an artist can find an audience and be successful. But I mean, I'd love to just get your sense as someone who's enjoyed a lot of success in the last few years.
So you're asking me like where I think it's gonna go, or like where it's
where do you think it's gonna go? What do you think is, I guess to focus the question, what do you think is good about the way the industry is structured now? And what do you think is challenging about it?
Man, I think you can find like opportunity and you can find good in a lot of different things. I'm like a very like optimistic person, like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but I don't know, man. It's like the music business to me now is like, it's the entertainment business. Like it's more about like antics than it is about the music, like with social media being fully involved in everybody's like rollout now, like it's all about the shock value and the virality of everything. So, I mean, it's hard to really say, man. Like, I just feel like I want to say it's going one way, but I know it's not, like, I feel like it's going to just like go left when I think it's going right. But I just feel like people are going towards this independent like route, which is like what I occupied for the past, like my entirety of my career was working on independent artists, working on independent deals and having them own their own businesses. I think people are leaning towards that now and really like building out small teams and operating themselves, as a business and as a unit, rather than like looking for a giant corporation to operate them like their businesses, which is like, I'm not saying like that isn't a good way to go down, but I think people are now in a mindset of like ownership. They want to like be like have a hand in their business fully, as opposed to it being like, all right, like you go and like I'll just like be the brand and be the thing that's behind everything,
Mm-hmm. That's great. Break that down a little bit. So if you're working with an artist, let's talk about Night Lovell.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're thinking about making that its own independent company,
right? What
are the pieces? Who are the main members of that, that team, that independent
team? Specifically for him, it's like, he's got a creative person that takes care of like all his like videography, like photography, whether they're alternating. He's got an agent, obviously, like the agent I told you about earlier, which I think is super important to continually just bring in income and also just to tee up like the right tours to promote projects, whenever those things do come out. As well as he's got himself, man. He's self-sufficient, bro. Like, to be honest, like he's done everything mostly himself. Like he records in his crib, like everything is all like done de facto. There's no like massive studio. There's no like massive like team. It's very small and it's a very small, tight-knit team. It's just management, agent, a few friends that are very creative, and himself, really, it's small, but I think that is a few pieces that, you could add to amplify things, but like, end of the day, there's no one blueprint to any client, right?
Yeah. I think it's so great to get that detailed picture of what that can look like for an artist, right?
Donald S. Passman, man, like he'll break it down. He'll say like attorney, which is, legal is obviously necessary. I forgot legal as well, but legal is definitely a massive thing if you're looking at shopping deals and like, having money actually flow through companies and whatnot. But yeah, that's one I missed for sure.
How do you think about social media for artists? You brought that up a little bit. Like, how do you like to see artists using social media? What do you think is important? Obviously, there's many different ways an artist can go about it, but what's your philosophy? What's your sense of how an artist should be using social media?
Bro, use it every day. Use it, you know, like, I mean, with someone like Lovell, like he's a mysterious person and he doesn't use it as often as people should use it. But like, I think that's part of his brand, you know, it's a part of like having people wait and like, you know, try to find out what's going on behind the scenes, as opposed to like how I think people should use it, which is like kind of letting fans into your world and letting fans kind of see what's going on. And I think, and all in all, like what fans want, they want to be able to grow with you, like from like here to here, you know, like what I always hear, it's like, I was with that guy when he was at like 1,000 streams. Like, I know him before you. It's like, you're not a real fan. It's like, bro, like there's people that jump in here, and jump in there. Yeah. But I think focusing on it and using it for its entirety, man, like it's important, bro. It's changing people's lives. You know, like TikTok's massive, Instagram's massive. Yep. Facebook is massive still, you know, like it's a giant tool that I think, you know, people forget that is like bigger than just like regular advertisement, you know, regular like, yo, like, hey, buy the album. It's like you can literally tap into the person that you want to tap into, exactly, you know, the age group, the gender, everything. Like that one documentary that came out recently was like, I forgot what it's called, but it was like diving into like social media and how kind of scary it is.
Yeah.
And how you can like really reach the audience you really want to reach. And I think that's maximizing the tool that's there for you, really, because at the end of the day, like, labels are going to use it. Everybody's using it.
It's such a game changer. Again, like as I was saying, I studied business, right?
Right.
I'm an OG. I graduated in 2005, okay? 2005 is before YouTube started. It's before Facebook came to Canada, let alone TikTok, obviously, Twitter, Instagram, any of this stuff. So literally when we were learning marketing, we were talking about focus groups because that was the best way you could understand is getting 40 people in a room.
That's crazy, bro.
Whereas now, like you said, the back end information is like, we're not taking guesses anymore about who the audience is and what they like and how they like things to be delivered. It's like, it's
and you're paying like, and back in those days too, it's like they're paying thousands of dollars for that information for focus groups. Like it's not cheap. I remember I did like a couple of those when I was like 15, 16, like some random companies, like they're like, yo, here's like $100, $200. Like, tell me what you'd like to eat. I'm like, what? This is amazing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's actually funny that people actually use focus groups to like figure out like what people wanted. I mean, I guess it's fair, but it's like very like niche. It's like whoever.
I mean, that was all there. That's what there was. You know what I mean? You get 50 people in a room, and then that's what you're making a guess on for like sometimes a large company's entire marketing strat, like millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, that's what I was shocked about. It's like you spend like Hershey spend like 2 M's on like I'm asking like 1,000 people in Canada like if they like to eat this versus this. I was like, bro, this is crazy. This is actually insane. But I guess like end of the day, man, that's a giant world that I think is important. I think very important.
And how do you think about the frequency of releases now? Because again, like there was an era, you know, I'm from the album artist era, right, where it was every, 2-3 years, and now, like, what do you think is necessary to keep that relationship with the audience going?
What I think the ideal like release schedule should be like for an artist to kind of keep the fire. I think, my partner and I, like, we talk about this all the time. Like, I think for artists that's established and you're in rollout, honestly, like monthly, if not like for a single, for a song, for a record, to let it breathe, let it like touch DSPs, let it like organically go to, different playlists and editorials, and then, if the song is going, you keep pushing. If the song is losing a bit of traction, next,
Yeah.
So I say 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, to allow yourself to pitch, to promote, and to also prepare for the release, and to have a content release strategy as well. That's a pretty decent time. But if you're new, man, and like you have no real demographic and no fan base, put it out, bro. Like, just let it go, let it fly.
Yeah.
Let it fly every 2 weeks, like.
Yeah, a lot of times people over strategize, and it's like
not that serious.
Yeah, it's not that serious.
It's not
that
serious, man.
there is this like fine line between, as we were saying, it's not so serious, like relax, release the music, like let it do what it's going to do, especially in the early days.
Right.
And also, on the other hand, you do have to be, especially once you're a little bit further along, you do have to be strategic. You have to. This happens so far in advance now.
Oh, 100%. Like it's not that serious, but it's serious. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, if you're new and you're still trying to find your feet, don't take it too seriously. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to build up a fan base and try different things and try different rollout schedules. Try 2 weeks, try 4 weeks, try every week. You know, like, we would drop the song every week. What was it like? It was like every Friday he put out a song. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, this guy is dropping every Friday. That's fire. Yeah. And like, that was the strategy for that project, you know, to allow fans to like hear something new every week. And like, he can kind of, you know, see what the fans are talking about and be like, okay, yo, they fuck with that type of vibe. I'm gonna go with that vibe. You know what I'm saying? And it's like essentially like a modern day focus group, you know, like you're essentially pitching new music back out of fans to see what they're rocking with and coming back to it. I think people were doing it recently in the past couple of years, like dropping like random leaks on SoundCloud to see if like fans would just like attach to that song. Like Uzi was doing it. Like he would put out a bunch of songs on SoundCloud and we were like, yo, this is the one. This is the one. He's like, okay, word. I'll be back. I'm gonna cook 10 songs like these. You know what I'm saying? And you're potentially tending to your fan base, really. And obviously mixing up, you know, a couple songs here and there to add a little bit more sauce. But I think the release schedule, like, there's no one way. Like, this business is like, to me, like a blank canvas. Obviously, there's like best practices, you know, once you're at a certain level and things are moving forward, and you know, you've got a brand to upkeep or fans to kind of like continually feed, you know. If you're on that type of side of the spectrum, then yeah, I think you should have a tight schedule where it's like, I'm going to put a song out every month with a video, and deliver it to the DSPs, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, whatever, weeks in advance so they can support it, right? So it's like you have everything kind of checked off on the box, and you know, you got your content strategy ready to go for social media. I'm going to post it with the trailer. I'm going to post these things like before the song comes out, and then like have just like a nice little schedule and just keep doing it until you're like your actual project, or keep doing singles, you know. Do
you deliver to the DSPs, or a publicist does that for you? How does it work with you?
No, we deliver it directly as a management company. Deliver it directly. Yeah. I think for us, PR just focuses on like public image mostly. For our clients, it's just like interviews, like looks that might, you know, would help build up the brand socially and internationally. But yeah, I think for DSP pitching and stuff like that, it's just connecting, man. Just connecting, pitching your music. Like if you love it, you'll tell the world about it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a helpful title to clarify for people too when we'll talk about a publicist, right? Some people ask, what does that really mean? So to hear you say, oh, I think about a publicity like, yeah, certain looks and international looks, but in terms of like streaming, you deliver that.
100%.
Telling the story, like you and your artist are the main kind of megaphones for what. Yeah.
Then again, even if you're, like I said, again, it's like a giant blank canvas. If you're small, I might, you know, the manager that's acting for a small client, I might wear every single hat. I might go deliver the article that I wrote to like a platform that like has a bunch of followers. I think that would possibly post that because my client might have some followers and the song's dope. And like, you know, there's a lot of platforms in new little spaces you can tap into through like internet, man. IG is like literally right there. You can go on there, DM. They might charge you $200. If you don't believe in yourself, put $200 on your career. You know, hedge a bet on yourself. If you know, hitting up writers that like are like you and I, you know, like that are just behind computers that are just writing up articles about dope artists. Music's dope. Show to the writer, you know. And I think that's what I did a lot at the beginning, was just like tell the world about this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like whether or not you got an asset that I want to tap into, whether or not like you're just a person that should know about this, that's my overall goal.
How much of a factor is that traditional world of publicity for your artists, like that world of write-ups, articles, television interviews, that sort of thing? How much of that is like important in the mix versus the other promotional stuff?
I think it's good. I think for the most part, it's not like necessary. I think end of the day, man, if your stuff's fire and catching fire, then write about it. You're gonna see it. A lot of the times, like after the first few times, like we pitched out and we tapped into guys that are writers or women that are writers that love the music, love the brand, love the team, then more times organically they'll just like, you fill them in on your schedule. Hey, we're releasing a project in 3 months, or here's the project a week in advance. Have a listen, and they're more inclined to, oh, this is fire. Like, all right, I got you for the next release. Like that's what it is. Really, it's just like it's collaboration. It's just being like overall managing your contacts properly, really, and building the contacts.
Okay, so on that topic, because we've been talking a lot about the internet,
right?
FaceTime with people in person. How much do you focus on that, on making that trip to LA or wherever it is, to make sure that you're actually in front, in the flesh with some of your contacts? How important is that to you?
I think it's very important, to be honest, man. Like FaceTime is just like, it just adds like the realness to the relationship, like that dinner, that sit down, that little meeting you might have with the person to just discuss what you discuss all year, or discuss other things that might not even be about music, man. Like people are human beings, man. They're just natural collaborators, it's natural for us to want to just like connect, So, I mean, I'm big on energy. So if the vibes are there over text and over the internet, then like, it's going to be there when I see you, you know, more times. I mean, sometimes it's not, but end of the day, like I like to assess that it's mostly good vibes.
Yeah. I think a lot about that because it is, as we were saying, so easy to reach out to people online now. And on one hand, that's good. But on the other hand, I mean, that just means some people are getting 1 trillion emails a day. And so that FaceTime ends up being the difference between you and, you're in this tier now.
You are definitely right. 100%. That's the biggest thing. Like, it's just, if you're able to like brush shoulders and like look in someone's eyes and discuss the things you're discussing, as opposed to like a DM or an email, like I would much push towards people to like actually like, do in-person meetings and hang out. Obviously it's COVID, but like right now we're doing this a lot, but at the same time, like it's just organic stuff, to be honest, man. Like I feel like if you aren't like a pressy person and you're just not an opportunist, you know what I'm saying? Which I think it might come off as over like socials or over an email, like, yo, like you have that, I want that, which is like why like you're allowing people to like be a part of the rollout or a part of the single rollout. It's like, here is our assets. If you want to support, you can support. And if they do, then that means they're trying to be a part of whatever you're trying to roll out.
That's right.
Incorporate them into your overall plan.
I think that relates back to what you were saying earlier about your energy at the very beginning, which was you want to help. You're not trying to get something.
Yeah.
You wanted to be involved because you wanted to contribute something. And I think people can always tell that difference of energy, whether it's on email or face-to-face, whether this is somebody that's like trying to contribute to the world, put something into the world, or if this is somebody that wants something.
Yeah. You can tell. I mean, it depends on the person that's like receiving it, though. Like if you can read that, you can read that. If you can't, then it's just it's person to person, in my opinion.
What's something you wish you knew in the beginning? I mean, things have worked out great for you, but when you look back, something that you really wish you knew.
Honestly, since like we're obviously 2 Canadian citizens and like grant system, dog. Like if I knew that was there from the beginning, I would have been banging lines a lot earlier, like, and looking for funding, looking for support. It's there. It's a privilege to be able to like, have all that, allocation of support and funding sitting there to allow us to give creatives and any business that they're offering grants to a chance to amplify themselves, you know? And I didn't tap into that stuff until maybe like well after like we could have tapped into it, you know? And that comes with just mentorship, man. People like yourself, that like myself, that have the knowledge now. And I can be like, yo, Shad, like you're a rapper, you're 17 years old, yo, check this out, you know? And even sometimes now I think people that like are artists that I think are super fire that go off and like might pen deals in the US and then forget that like they got 100 racks sitting like in like some like in Trudeau's office like that he can tap into, you know? I'm like, bro, like you could have gotten that and that, you know? And it's just it's your birthright, really. But yeah, that was a massive thing for me that I think that I would like, man. If I knew 4 years before, I would have tapped into it.
Do you remember who put you onto that? Who showed you a bit of that?
Oh man, that's a good question. I don't know who it was, but someone told me about the grant stuff. But like, I'm just like, man, grants, like, excuse me, like I won't get that stuff. Like, it'll take years. Like, they'll probably choose some guy above me. But I think like I had gotten an email from a grant writer that wanted to write a grant for my client. And that comes with just like the client's success. They see the value in the client and the success possibilities of it going through. So it's like, I guess like, yeah, that person just like kind of shined the light on like, yo, like there's money here, you know? So I was like, oh, word. Okay, let's go there. And then like, I learned more about grants essentially from that person and learning about corporations and companies that like specifically do that.
How did you learn about international markets? Obviously, Canadian managers and artists are very interested in, you know, reaching out beyond our borders, right? So could you talk a little bit about how you started to learn more and more about how to help your artists reach out beyond Canada?
Yeah, man, that's a big question, to be honest, because like I think like that's like extremely important, to be honest, to maximize the world. I think people forget like the world is just like it's here, you know? If your song is banging in Manila or the Philippines, like you're going to Manila, like go see the fans out there.
Yeah.
Like I said, it comes back down to like to data. You know, for me, I looked into like at the time it was like SoundCloud, and that was what we were maximizing on. And like I can see countries, I can see cities, I can see all these like schematics and data, right? And I focused on just like, how can I like reach out to the same people that I work with domestically, internationally, that are in that market? Like who is a writer in Russia? Who's a writer in Paris? Who's a writer in the UK? And just building that Rolodex and building that like that connection with people that are like in that territory that might even see you as more valuable themselves. You know, like it's like, oh, word, like you're over there, you'd like to like work with us? It's like, yeah, let's rock. Like let's just try something out. And I think it comes down to just like doing your research, man. Like the internet's literally it's right here. It's blank canvas. You can go dig as far as you want to dig. And you can find, to be honest, any contact you want, any Instagram you want, any person you really want. LinkedIn is there as well. You can search up writer and give you like 1,000 results, you know, and then press connect. And if they connect with you, you can tap in with them. But I think maximizing international markets is super important, man. Like the world is, and it sounds like mad generic, but the world is your oyster, bro. Like you can go, for instance, like for Lovell, like he got really popular in Eastern Europe. We just went there. Just went to Eastern Europe, man, in 1920 and just said, like, let's just like do a small show, like make a little bit of cash and just like see the people that like love you, you know?
That's huge. Again, the FaceTime, right? Like
yeah, bro.
The audience is there. You can see it in the, you know, data.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's actually touch base and see what, you know, what it is that's appealing to them. What that relationship actually feels like. That, I mean, kudos, bro, because that's amazing. Like you said, it's on one hand, it's we can do all the research online, but it takes a level of courage and confidence and curiosity to like really dig in and make that stuff happen. And
so take risk as well too, man. Like I said, like if you, let's say you got a grant, $20,000, and you know you have fans in Paris, go to Paris, bro. Like, so set up a small show, meet that Paris PR that's like only like $5 for the month, and like let him like seed your content over like 10 small platforms, and maybe that fan base might, you know, stretch and like be able to tap in and stretch your fan base to 1,000 fans next time you're there. That's what we did first time. We did shows in towards Amsterdam, bro. I was DJing for bro and MC. I was his hype man and manager. You know, I was like, let's go, like turn up. And not knowing that I'm the guy typing the emails, setting up the show as well. You know, it's just like you wear the hat, you make it work until like you have someone to do it for you. You know,
that's amazing. And you know, the thing I love about that too is what I've always felt is that what the worst comes to worst, you had an amazing experience.
Exactly.
Worst case scenario.
Exactly. That's all.
You have some shows in Europe, and that will always be a memory that you've had. That's
my biggest memory to this day. To this day, like regardless of all the wins that we have now, it's like the moments that like I had when I was 19 years old with like negative money and like on tour and eating like one meal a day is just like it's just fire being there, regardless of like what we earned, or like it was just two Black kids in Europe hopping on trains across Europe doing small shows, making it work.
I mean, what else do you want? Yeah,
exactly. It's like, what else could you want? You have no job to go back to right now. You're just killing it on the road.
Love it.
You know?
Let me see what else I have for you here.
Yeah, man, of course.
Yeah, what's some of you?
Those are good vibes, man. I remember those times, like always good vibes.
You know, like that's always been my mentality is worst comes to worst. These are incredible experiences that 99% of people don't have.
Right, man. Right. It's like if the world ended today, it's like at least I saw 30 countries, you know, at least I was able to like, you know, experience that in, you know, a matter of like 2 years, fortunately, you know.
Yeah. Okay, there was a question I had, and then maybe click if you have anything, you can throw it in the chat. But there was a question I had about how you think about your artists and interacting with brands, right? So I'm thinking about income streams,
right?
And there's, you know, obviously the live touring, there's the streaming world and all that, and then there's an entire world of just, you know, relationships with other companies and brands and stuff like that. So, but that's a tricky thing for a manager, because you're thinking about revenue, but you're also thinking about your artist brand and their image and their reputation and all that, right? Like,
right.
So let's talk about Night Lovell and just how you think about navigating that, relationships with brands and those kinds of partnerships.
I never focused on specifically like partnering with specific companies. I just wanted to make sure his brand was appealing as possible, like as clean as possible, something that he loved and like he wanted to show the world. And the thing is, man, like his brand and most artists' brands, like I worked with before, it's like sometimes they start out shitty, like they suck, you know, and they kind of just like over like a matter of like a year to 2, 3, 4 years, and you try to like find yourself as an artist and like you understand what you want the world to know about you and what you want the world to see that your brand is, you know? And I think like gradually rebranding and finding your feet as an artist is super important. And I think that, you know, the tapping into the partnerships and whatnot is equally important. But I think some of that helped me a lot was the agency as well. Bigger agencies have departments for branding. Like they'll sit down and say, yo, like Shad, like, what do you like to do? What do you find fun? Like, what gives you like joy? And like, you sit there like, yo, I love cars. It's like, okay, cool. Like, let's do a commercial with Subaru or something like that. It's like, or like, let's incorporate some digital ad that Subaru would want to partner with you on, or finding brands that are trying to tap into that demographic, you know, that might align with your brand. You know, a lot of brands come across and they might want to pay you a bag to obviously tap into your demographic and your reach. but you have to find the ones that align. Because at the end of the day, it's like, once you partner, the world's gonna look at you as the guy that partnered with like Subaru or Ford or Honda or whatever it is for that one commercial. But I think just sitting down, man, having that creative brainstorm, being creative. It's like, who do I want to collaborate with? Like, who do I want to like, do a shoot with for editorials? Like, and for me, it was like, yo, like that'd be dope to do a shoot with BBC. Like, I'm a big Pharrell fan. I remember I emailed them and I was like, hey, like, are you down to like do a shoot with like Lovell for free? Like, and it was like, oh, I mean, sure. Like, they want models for something, and I offered the client to just like, shoot for free, and they accepted the offer. And from there, it's just like, once you have one or two corporations or brands that you've had successful campaigns with, more brands want to work with you because it's more appealing to them. It's like, oh, like he's a safe choice versus a client that might be saying a lot of wild things, I'm saying, all the time, and might be too risky for their asset, which is their brand. But yeah, man, I think that's the focus. It's just gradually building your Rolodex and tapping into new brands that align with the client's brand. Whether or not it's free, whether or not it's paid, just do more until like that one big check does come.
Yeah, and I like what you said too about how you focus on your artist brand, right? And making sure that's clear and that's good.
Right.
Okay, and now you can start to think about what's a natural fit,
and how do you know what aligns with your brand? You don't know what your own brand is.
Yeah.
It's just like, what do you like to do? It's like, why would I want to partner with that company? Give me a reason why our brands align. Sometimes I might even just send out pitch decks. It's like, yo, like, this is my artist. Here's like a one pager. Here's the accolades. Here's the reach. Here's what I think would look nice, for your brand. And if they like it, typically they might just bite on it and say, let's do something that's maybe in this realm. Let's go over here instead, and so let's rock. That's I think what the focus is for me.
That's great. I mean, I think that covers everything that I had on my mind that I see as like, questions that would probably be top of mind for somebody thinking about getting into management, and also just like breaking down in detail some of these different aspects, like an agent and relationships with brands and relationships with streamers, I think it's so helpful to just give people a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course.
And,
I wish I had that as a young manager, man. I used to always think like, damn, like, where's that person I can just go to like seek information from or like ask advice for certain things? I had problems that were bigger than me that I wanted to have maybe someone like you, like, yo, Shad, like, how do you deal with this?
Yes.
About the things that sometimes I think like that honestly shaped me because I dealt with it on my own. So now I know like how to navigate around it. But it'd be nice to just have like thinking that like, damn, like I'm gonna get crushed, or like it's like sink or swim, So
I think what's nice is it's nice to get, and this is something you kind of said earlier, it's nice to get those best practices.
Yes, man.
Right?
Yeah.
You get those down, because then on top of that, like, you actually have insights that someone like me wouldn't have, into your world, a certain demographic, a certain audience, where you go to listen to music, where you go to discover music. Like, there's actually all these insights and knowledge that you have that I don't even have. But with my experience, I would have some best practices to just go, here you go.
Yeah, man, exactly.
And that's what I hope we're kind of giving people here.
Yeah, cop that Donald S. Passman book, read it, at whatever speed you want to read it at. It's honestly, man, it's honestly a Bible. Like, you skip steps, you don't have to go through all the issues you might have to go through. Like, if I read that book, like when I was 17, 18, 19, like I would have learned a lot, of like how the industry looks at things, and how it's supposed to be structured before going in and trying to like, oh, my bad, like.
Because as much as things are shifting and changing, there's still some things that have been the same for decades.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the overall here.
Yeah.
Coursera is free, man. I mean, not free. It's like pretty cheap though, but you can like get like a music law degree, bro, in like 3 months. Like, you can knock out a lot of different things. Like, information online is probably free or like very cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So keep digging, man. If you're hungry, keep digging.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. Thank you. You're great. And it's just awesome. You're awesome to hear your story, and congrats on all your success. It's beautiful.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.